speak out the
Chill us with EKSE, Monday to Friday, we keep on learning every day. We keep it real, Monday to Thursdays, entertainment Fridays. Just so you know, it's 5 p.m. we're going live now. Just so you know, till 6, don't touch the dial, go. Just so you know, it's 5 p.m. we're going live now. Just so you know, till 6, don't touch the dial, go. Youth Block of the Year, catch us everywhere. Hashtag line EKSE, Uzofiwa this year. Youth Block of the Year, catch us everywhere. Hashtag line EKSE, Uzofiwa this year.
Welcome, Zansi. Yes, we want to welcome you to another episode of EKSE Live. We are back like It is a blue Monday, as you can see. I hope everyone at home is dressed as blue. As we all know, 14th November is known as World Diabetes Day, and where we raise awareness and the impacts it has in our lives. We also do have Kirsten Osuga all the way from SA Diabetes Advocacy about the campaign that they're doing and how you guys at home can actually get to be involved. Yes, we do have even Ulwandile who will be dressing up and doing some yoga in a few minutes. I can't wait for that one because, as you know, Ulwandile is shy. And also we do have Uzilam Konto who's going to give us 2 exclusive performances from him. So, ladies and gents, welcome to Destination Awesomeness.
Hey. Yes, as you heard. Welcome to EKSE, and it is Diabetes Day, the 14th of November, which is held annually. And in the studio today, we have Kirsten de Klerk, who is here to speak about diabetes, as well as the organization that she is part of, South African Diabetes Advocacy. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me here today.
Yes, I feel like we've all had like some sort of idea of what diabetes is, but what is the health definition of what is diabetes?
So diabetes is basically a condition where your body either stops producing insulin or it still makes insulin, but your body doesn't actually know how to process the insulin that's been made. And as as a living human, you need insulin to be able to break down your carbohydrate and glucose in the food and drink that you eat, as well as all the other hormones that happen in your body.
So you're speaking about the insulin and the glucose, and I know there's a glycogen as well. I don't know if it's the same part. I'm like biology. Okay, cool. But like, what would you say the main causes of diabetes is?
So there is actually no cause of type 1 diabetes. You'll hear about the different types of diabetes a bit later, but type 1 diabetes is generally quite a genetic condition. So it can either be in your family, or no one in your family can have it and you can just get it out of nowhere. And it just, there is really no cause for it. And type 2 diabetes, it can be seen as a lifestyle condition if you are overweight. It can also be very hereditary. So if it is in your family history, you're probably more likely, because of the sort of environment that you grow up in, the foods that you eat, how often you exercise, all of those types of things can be the causes.
Okay, so we've talked about causes, we've talked about signs. I want to find out, can diabetes be cured? If someone maybe has diabetes, they're like, okay, is there like some sort of cure that I can take over a certain time, or is it something that I have to live with for the rest of my life?
So unfortunately, diabetes is a lifestyle condition and there is no cure. People living with type 1 diabetes they are insulin dependent, so they have to inject insulin every single day for the rest of their life to be able to continue living. And people with type 2 diabetes, if caught early enough, they can actually go into remission by either losing weight or really tackling their exercise and their sort of eating plan. But there is no cure.
Okay. And you were speaking about type 1 diabetes, right? That's something that you live with forever, for a long time. So there are certain people that, unfortunately, their limbs need to be cut off, like toes, legs, etc. How does it get to that stage? How would you say diabetes actually affects the body?
So diabetes affects the entire body. If you think about your blood glucose, it actually sits within your bloodstream. So your bloodstream is throughout your entire body. So if you sit with a high blood glucose level for a long period of time, that blood glucose is going all over your body and affecting every single part of it. That's why you'll hear that if people have high blood sugar levels or uncontrolled blood sugar levels, they are at a higher risk of the long-term complications, being blindness, leg amputation, kidney failure, heart disease. But I want to let people know that you can actually live a good and long and healthy life with diabetes. I think that's where we have to change the story with diabetes in South Africa. And we need to support people and we need to help them. We don't just, send them home and say, okay, you have diabetes.
Like figure it out.
Yeah, like we need to have a support system in place so that people know that they can actually live a good life with diabetes.
Yeah.
And I think through the right support, you kind of become empowered to look after yourself. And it's actually a blessing in disguise because you're forced to look after yourself.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you talked about something very important about how in the second one type of diabetes, you can actually catch it early and go into remission. Yes. I want to find out about that. What are the first signs where you know that, okay, maybe I need to go to the doctor because I might have diabetes?
So frequent urination is a big one. Being thirsty all the time, so very like dehydrated, and then frequent urination, maybe a bit of blurry vision. And then with type 1 diabetes, excessive weight loss is quite a big one.
Right.
But those are sort of the signs that you first will start feeling. Also just exhaustion, like pure exhaustion, like just being tired from doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But I would say those are the symptoms to look out for.
Right.
Wow.
But if it's in your family, and like a lot of people around you have it, it's probably best to just get your finger pricked once a year.
Right.
You can get it at your local clinic, at Clicks, Discam, anyway. And it's basically takes 5 seconds. They'll prick your finger, you put your blood sample in, and you'll be able to see. And if you can pick it up soon enough, you will actually get sort of classed as a pre-diabetes, which means that you're even more at a better chance of correcting it before it becomes type 2 and you have to depend on medication for the rest of your life.
Wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Yes.
That is, so wow, it's just, wow. And today you are a survivor while you are living with diabetes.
Yes.
It's just absolutely amazing. And that's why
Very
you're
much
saying that
so.
you want to put the message out there to tell people that you can live a healthy lifestyle. Doesn't mean that your life is stopping. But you are part of the South Africa Diabetes Advocacy. Tell us more about the organization and how the people at home can support the organization as well.
So South African Diabetes Advocacy came about because I've been living with type 1 diabetes for 12 years. And I realized it's actually not that easy to live with a chronic illness and to inject yourself at least 4 or 5 times a day. Always watch what you're eating, always exercise, always you always have to be in control of like your life and where you're going. And I found the need to connect with people that were living with the same condition with me, and I didn't know anyone else living with diabetes in South Africa. So along with Bridget McNulty, she's my co-founder, we decided that EKSE Diabetes Advocacy would be a great platform for not only individuals living with diabetes to come together, but also the organizations in South Africa that work with diabetes, because we found they were all working in silos and they weren't creating a big voice.
I am so sorry, I have to cut you, but you'll answer this question when we come back. Right now, though, let's find out what's happening with Sibu in the social media page?
In the
social media lounge, I mean.
Yes.
Yes.
What's hippity hop here, Lwandile? Into yenza we do get to ask a social media question here namhlanje is what would you do in this situation? And please hop on social media platforms zethu this hashtag and tell us what you think about this and what questions you do have about the topic here namhlanje as we are talking World Diabetes Day. So hop on Instagram at EKSE_live, Twitter EKSE_live, and on Facebook it's EKSE on Cape Town TV. But right now, let's go to the ad break. Salamanzi, we'll be back.
Welcome back to EKSE right here on channel 263. So when we open the show, we were having a conversation with Kirsten de Klerk, all the way from South African Diabetes Advocacy, and you were speaking about the organization that you are part of.
Yeah, so basically EKSE Diabetes Advocacy has the member organizations of NPOs and non-profits working on diabetes in South Africa, as well as the individual who wants to create an impact in their community and empower change in that space for themselves in diabetes in South Africa.
Wow. So I'm pretty sure the people can see there's another special woman alongside you on the seat, Margot. Welcome. Thank you so much for sitting down with us and being able to chat with us. And I want to ask you, there are 3 types of diabetes and you touched on the 2. Can you please explain to the viewers what are the different 3 types of diabetes that can be found?
Okay, type 1 is an autoimmune disease. So in other words, your pancreas that makes insulin your immune system attacks and destroys those cells that make insulin. And without insulin, we cannot survive, because that acts as a key in order to unlock the cells and allow what you eat in the form of glucose to go from your blood into your body's cells. So then you might as well be stuck on a desert island without any food. And I don't know if you've heard the story about the people that discovered insulin. Was back in 1921.
Wow.
So that was, last year was the centenary. And the story goes that there was a whole ward of children, and they were in comas, diabetic comas. And the doctors had discovered that they could make insulin from cows and pigs. So they'd extracted insulin, and they were testing it on the children. Now, you can imagine the picture. The children were all in diabetic comas. Their parents were sitting with them waiting to die.
Sure.
And the doctors injected them with the first insulin, and slowly they all started to wake up. So
Sure.
insulin is a miracle drug. It really is. Even today, without it, type 1s with diabetes would not be able to survive. So, yeah, that's a great story. Type 2 is more genetic. In other words, you normally have somebody in your family with diabetes, like my dad and my grandfather had diabetes, so I'm more at risk because of that. My genes have got the risk factor that I could develop diabetes. And then there's other risk factors, you know, like being overweight, perhaps not eating healthy, not really being very active. You know, those can bring you more towards diabetes and developing it.
And then you have type 3 as well, which is the last one.
That's gestational diabetes, and that's when you're pregnant.
Okay.
And sometimes it goes away after pregnancy, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the person will develop diabetes later on in life. It might stay away for a few months or few years, but they might end up getting diabetes later on.
Okay, so with what you just said now, I do believe that maybe you did answer the question that we were going to ask, that is it contagious? That means it can be passed on to the next person, or how does it work?
It's not contagious.
Okay.
It's in your genes. So in other words, our genes, we inherit from our parents and from our grandparents. So in other words, if I have blue eyes, I might have inherited them from my parents' blue eyes. Or if I'm a genius at maths,
Like me.
then you might have inherited that from one of your parents or your grandparents. So, you know, we all have those genes which make us special individuals.
Yes.
But from our families, we inherit other things as well. And unfortunately, something like diabetes can
Is
be
one of them.
inherited.
Yeah.
But it's not contagious in the way that if
So I can't
if I
see you
Not like
No, I'm not going to give it to you today, don't worry.
And touching on the 3 different types of diabetes, of course, there is treatments that comes with it as well. Please tell us a bit more about that, Kirsten.
So type 1 diabetes, like I'm insulin dependent for the rest of my life. So whenever I eat or drink carbohydrates or sugar, I have to take insulin. And then along with that, exercise is very important. And yeah, eating a well-balanced, low-carb, more diet, not very high carbohydrate. Type 2 diabetes, do you want to touch on that?
Yes, type 2 diabetes, we were saying that, you know, type 1 is insulin dependent, in other words. But type 2 is slightly different in that you might have too much insulin, but it's not working properly. So if you're diagnosed, what the doctor might do is say to you, well, you know, you're a bit overweight. If you can lose 10% of your weight, it might make your cells a bit more sensitive to the insulin that you are producing.
Yes.
And they will be more active. And then if you change to a healthy lifestyle and get some regular exercise, maybe even just walking around the block,
That
or
will be
you know,
much
down
better
the
for you
road.
as well.
And
down the end.
that would also sensitize your cells to use up the glucose and lower it. So
Thank you. Sorry, I have to cut you right there, Margot. Thank you so much, Kirsten and Margot, for coming through. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have left right now. Thank you so much for discussing diabetes and informing us a bit more about that. If you guys want to find out more, do go up onto the social media platforms as well as follow these two organizations. Absolutely amazing, doing amazing things for people with diabetes